on.
Straight into it. Back in the proverbial room.
And we're back in the
Or
room.
the actual room.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, and this episode is for anyone who is interested in how we, the ex-co-mayors of ADHD, score on a bunch of online autism tests, and then we kind of get into it. So let's
dive into it.
Yeah, we're going to dive in head first. So let's go to a place where the distractions are landmarks and the detours are the main roads. Welcome to ADHDville. Oh yes.
Intro music.
We just measure up.
I'm still stretching. Oh, stretch.
There we go.
That's more measuring the stretching, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, hello, I'm Paul Thompson. I was diagnosed. Yes, I was. No denying it by now. With the combined ADHD crawling towards a bunch of years ago.
2, in fact.
A pair of years ago.
A pair of years. You don't get anything for a pair. Not in this game.
Not in this game.
And I'm Martin West, and I was diagnosed with the combined ADHD poo-poo platter in 2013. And we start off, as we have been recently, sitting in the Crown's agitated
without the intro.
Head pub.
Yeah.
And we are going
in the
to
pub.
Yeah, and we so in the week we did an autism assessment test, so we're going to dig those out. There is also a pub quiz. I do like a pub quiz, so I'm excited about that. And we have one listener question at the end, so we've got a lot to crack through, Mr. T. So,
and I don't know what the question is, so
I know.
Officially excited.
Well, I'm sure you can pitch in. So let's quickly jump into the official tractor, and we're going to drive off. Where are we going, Mr. Thompson? Where should we go?
Let's go. We go to the park, Martin.
Oh, I do like the park. Let's get in the tractor and go.
Yes. Let's go.
Squeeze up.
By the way,
park life.
Did you know that I don't know how it is in the States, but in England, when you went to the park, you went to visit the ducks and you took a load of bread with you.
Yeah.
Did you know that it's about the worst thing you can give a duck or a swan is
apparently
bread.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Why would a duck want bread?
I don't know.
Apparently it's really bad for them. Anyhow.
Make it bloat them out.
Exactly.
And, the reason why we decided that we would do these online autism tests is because if you have ADHD, there is a fair chance, there is a good cracking chance that you may also be masking some autism.
Yeah,
autism is a big subject, obviously, at the moment. More people have it than they think they do. I would suspect. So we just dipped our toes in. All right, Mr. T and
then autism in all its guises. I think that's a really important thing to point out. Autism, it can be confusing. It's like what is and isn't autism? It's a minefield.
Yeah, because certainly there's a whole bunch of traits that overlap with ADHD, and so I almost think of them as like a sort of a brother and sister. It's kind of, that they're kind of quite closely linked, and they kind of tend to fight each other a lot, like squabbling siblings.
Squabbling siblings.
Right. So
that's true.
So I found a bunch of tests. There was the AQ10, the CAQ, the RAADS-R, and the AQ.
The TLDR.
So there was a whole bunch, and I did about 4 of them.
Yeah.
I made notes. How first off,
I didn't so much.
Let's kind of see where you netted out.
Well, I netted out a 1. I can't. I have to be honest. I have to be honest. I didn't actually note, but which one it was or wasn't. Right. There's one that has
guess. I can probably
Yeah.
guess based on your
The first
score.
one
I can probably guess.
Right. The first one I did was the longest one, Martin. It had 80
Okay.
questions. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I, in my mind, in my silly little mind, 80 questions seems about the right number of questions. Because some of them are only
Right.
like 30. It's
Right.
like, well, how can you possibly with 30 questions? So on the one that had 80 questions, I came out as their words, overwhelmingly autistic.
All right.
139 I scored. I'm not sure what out of, but probably out about 150.
Oh, that could
Overwhelming.
be
when I did it, I have to say I was conservative. When they ask you they provoke questions, like with all of these tests, they provoke questions, and I erred on the side of being conservative about how I responded. You know, I wasn't trying to like push my score.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. And I came out high, clearly.
I suspect that was the CAT-Q. I suspect.
Yes,
just
I think
based
it was.
on
I think so.
your score.
Right.
So yours was what, 130 something? 139. So on the
139, yeah.
So on the CAT-Q, the average autistic male score. Let me just check. You are male, right?
And I'm average.
Averagely male. The average autistic male score is 109.
Okay.
On that, and you're 130 over. And basically, if you get over 100, that indicates camouflaging autistic traits. So that's like, so that would be you kind of dampening down your autism traits.
Yes.
You said you were conservative, right? I on my test for the CAT-Q, I think I was, I tried to, I think I tried to go down the middle, and I was trying to answer them and take away the masking part of it, you know, like the compensation part of it. So I was trying to kind of, so if it would say, you know, do you find socializing hard work?
Yes.
And then I go,
that's a good
well,
point.
Actually,
yeah.
And then I would think, well, actually, you know what? I can, and I sometimes do. In and talking to a whole load of people, I kind of, there's part of me that actually quite enjoys that. But then I think back and I go,
right,
yeah, that's only been in the last 10 years or so. For most of my life, to kind of go, well, forget my coping strategies. Let me just concentrate on the earlier part, and then I go, yeah, no, I do find it difficult. Yeah. So I scored for the CAT-Q 154.
Ooh.
154, Thompson. But I think that probably that's
congratulations.
So you're 139, or was it?
9. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were conservative, and I think I was a little bit more. I was not as conservative.
Rambunctious.
So I think I was a little bit more like, come on, let's go.
You're rambunctious.
Right, and not think about who I was now. I'm almost like trying to thinking about who I was in the past.
Okay.
So all right, so you're 139. So
right,
we're both
fair. That's fair, because like now I'm quite comfortable in social situations now.
Yeah, but there
because I've
definitely
lost
was
my
a time.
shame. It's a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a bit a bit more shameless now.
yeah.
Less giving a fuck, basically, about
All
how I
right,
come across.
so the average male is 100 of that for
Okay.
both of us. Did you have another test that you did?
I did
Another?
about 3 or 4 other tests, but as you know, the indisciplined part of me, and probably ironically autistic part of me, didn't actually note down what the tests were that I
All
was
right,
doing
I
by
can probably
name.
go on
And
then. If you've got a score though.
all the other tests, no, they
Oh,
just, well, some of them they just sent me. They just didn't even give me a score. They just said, "Oh, you're low."
all right. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I
yeah. They just said I was low.
low. All right. So you had
Yeah,
one
or
that was
low on, underwhelming kind of levels of autism.
right. So I had RAADS-R. I scored 174, and 160 is strong evidence of autism.
Okay.
On the cat, oh no, I did the cat Q, and then on the AQ, the autism spectrum quotient, I got
Mm-hmm.
36, and basically
Right.
79% of autistic people score over 32. So I'm kind
Right.
of definitely scoring high
Mm-hmm.
there as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, now of remembering, I was kind of like over the limit on one of them. I was over the cusp level.
mhm,
So I was like, okay, you know, there elements of autism were clearly there, shall we say?
right. And then I did the AQ10, which was a very short test, and I scored
Yeah.
5, which is like middle, which is like meh. I don't know.
Meh.
Might be, might
Right.
not be. It was like that was
Mm-hmm.
an underwhelming response, but the CATQ, the RADS, and the AQ
Yeah.
was a lot higher, a lot higher.
Yeah.
Woo.
Mm. So what are we saying about this, Martin West?
Well,
Because
go
I
on.
just found, well, I did a bit of research on the research, and it came up that there's a lot of, actually, let's take a step back. We as ever with our podcasts, we're not a telling people how to think or behave or what to do kind of
Or
podcast. There
experts.
are lots of other experts. We're not experts. There are other podcasts that would do that for you. So, we're not that. We're just like, oh, we've just started this journey kind of a thing, and let's see where that goes or where it doesn't. Okay. So that's it. Okay. So like really
Mm-hmm.
we want to be really clear about this. And in fact, we were chatting before we came on air about this. Okay. What do we want to say about this? I mean, are there conclusions that you can make? Or are there not? So my conclusion was that limited, for me personally, fairly limited level of, like, it helped me, made me exclude Asperger's, maybe, for example, because a lot of these tests tend to be high Asperger's slash high performing autistic types as a bias, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's my what I got from
Yeah.
it. It is about high performing autistic people and or Asperger's. So it helped me define what I a little bit about what I am and what I'm not in terms of the autistic spectrum.
All right. Yeah, I just had like my takeaway is that these things are for people who think they might be autistic and then have a little suspicion that they are, and then
Mm-hmm.
they go on and they see what their tests are, and then
Mm-hmm.
to me it's like a signpost that that if you're that Well, basically, if you are autistic, that signpost will lead you to, and you will do more research, and you'll go deeper and deeper and deeper into it, and then you'll be able to kind of either self-diagnose yourself after a lot of research, or you'll go and get an official. So this is kind of like a toe in the water. It's like a little let's test,
dip in the toe.
Yeah, it's like a first. I think it's probably people's first, one of their first first things that they do, right? The first little bit of research is these scores.
Yeah. Because you're not, I guess it's important to define what it's not. It's not going to define you as being autistic or not.
No.
It's not going to give you any particular answers. At best, well, for me personally, at best it might start to define you. In my case, okay, I'm definitely not Asperger's, for instance. So that was pretty much it, and it made me kind of curious to maybe develop it further if I have the cash to do it, or the cash, the time, or the will to do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it really. It's the yeah. Yeah. But there were some really interesting questions that will pop up. And I think for me, as we were saying earlier, it's how you think about those questions. Like I can remember there was another podcast, right? And it wasn't to do with the neurodivergent at all, but the host was, in my mind, was clearly autistic, right? I mean, he just had that mind. You know, he could he would note down the gas prices for petrol prices everywhere, and he all knowledge in the gas. He would go home and he'd log it all. He could say pi numbers down the hundreds, right? He could just he could stand there for hours and just go through 3.14 and then just go on and on and on and on, right? And then he did the autism test, and then he came back negative. And I think it's on these online quizzes, it's down to how you think about the question.
How you interpret
really sways the result.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of.
I remember when before I got my ADHD diagnosis, kind of almost 2 years ago, I remember I did an online ADHD test. Okay, and it came out kind of low, and then I watched a podcast on YouTube, and it actually told me how to interpret better, how to approach the test. So I redid the test. It came out high.
Yeah.
You know? And point being is now, I mean, clearly, I mean, I'm so obviously ADHD. It's just ridiculous, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's
you know what I mean?
It's who's answering the quiz. Is it your masked self?
Yeah.
Or is it your unmasked
there
self?
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
I try to kind of put that masked version of me away.
Or is it, or even beyond that, is it the ADHD version of Paul 2 years ago, or is it the ADHD Paul of now? You know what I know now, more educated about it, you know, more aware and a lot more unmasked. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you write down some of the questions? I think you said
there were some weird ones that pop out that made you kind of like sit up. There's one of them said, one of them was the provocation was, I sometimes have compulsive thoughts about being injured or having other bad things happen to me in extremely specific ways. What? To me,
So
that sounds like. I mean, I know. God, how many times we're going to say it during this episode? But I'm certainly not an expert. To me, that sounds like schizophrenia.
wait, what does it?
Yeah. Well, schizophrenia, people, autistic people were diagnosed before 1980 in America. It was lumped under schizophrenia until 1980.
Right.
So it's only since 1980 that it wasn't considered a kind of, on the spectrum of schizophrenia, which is insane.
Right. So
But
hang on.
so I'll read this out again. I
Yeah.
sometimes have compulsive thoughts about being injured or having other bad things happen to me in extremely specific ways.
Yeah, that's me.
Is it?
I said yes, absolutely.
Oh, blimey. Okay. Okay.
I mean, so
See,
for
this is interesting. This is interesting. So maybe I'm not ready to really. Maybe I don't know myself well enough yet to actually respond to that question.
right,
I don't
because
know.
because my gut reaction, if you like, or if I'd answered this, maybe even a couple of years ago, would have been no, I don't.
Right.
But
Okay.
but because I have spent quite a lot of time internally looking at myself. I already
Mm.
know the answer, so the answer comes out straight
Mm.
away, which is
Mhm.
I sometimes think, so when I'm walking down the road, say I'm walking to work, right? I'm going to
Mm.
work, I'm going to the station. I think, yeah, I'm just walking down here and there's a gas station or petrol station there. What if a
Yeah.
car just kind of came out of the petrol station and then just hit me, right? And
Right.
then I ended up in
Right.
hospital so that I didn't have to go to work that day, right?
Right.
That is me fantasizing, if you like, or having these intrusive
Yes.
thoughts about specific injuries that would happen to me. Like,
Oh, but I wouldn't think about. I do that, but I wouldn't think of specific injuries.
well, no, not necessarily specific injuries, but it's kind of like, here's a very
Outcomes.
specific thing where I'm walking down
Mm.
this thing. I think, oh yeah, a car could just hit me, and then I end up in hospital with some broken bones, but nothing
Yes.
serious. But I would then not be able to go to
Yeah.
work.
Right. Oh, I do that. I do that.
Well, there we go then. That's it. That's it.
Right.
That's
The most common one I have is like if I'm going down a long straight road. If I'm
right.
going down a long straight road, I'll think, what if I didn't wait for the next turn left or right? I just took a left and went down this field
Yeah. Well,
and like
yeah.
over the canal and see what would happen and where would I end up? And before I know it, I'm at home
Right.
and like
Okay,
haven't
well,
gone down a rabbit hole of what the outcomes might have been.
all right. So that doesn't sound like there's any specific harm. It's just like you're just going off.
No.
You're just going off road for a while.
Right. Yes.
I mean,
ruining someone's crop.
right. You're just ploughing your way through their cornfield.
Yeah.
Whereas I might
definitely
think
have those thoughts. But I
right.
I read that question very literally, which is also very autistic.
Right. Yes.
Because it said, right, even the way I read the question was autistic. Because it said things, so I sometimes have compulsive thoughts about being injured or having other bad things happen to me in extremely specific ways.
Right.
Yeah, mine isn't very specific. Although it kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right,
it
okay.
is. I mean,
It's
like, so
very specific.
So down the road and drive, right?
Yeah.
And then I kind of think, what would happen if I just swerved off to the left into the incoming traffic? Like,
yes,
what would happen? I mean, you
Right.
don't do it, but you kind of think, but you
Yeah.
almost kind of see yourself like swerving off and you hit someone, and then your car would start rolling, and then what would that be like? And then you'd be
Right.
upside down and the radio
Yes.
would still be on, and there'd be like wham
Right.
playing. Merry Christmas,
Yeah,
last
yeah,
Christmas
yeah.
you gave me, or whatever, some horror, and you just
The
like,
very next day, you
you
gave it
gave it
away.
away, and you're hanging upside down,
Right.
and like
Listen to
that's,
George Michael.
yeah, and you're thinking, well, he's dead now, and I almost died.
He did. Me in that situation, I'm already going down another tunnel thinking George Michael, he was Greek, and
Yeah,
thinking Demis Roussos,
right.
right?
Was he Greek?
I'm upside down. Yeah, he was.
All right, there we go. Some
Yeah,
famous Greek people. So that's me thinking specific, intrusive thoughts that are very specific.
yeah, yeah.
Have you got any
Okay,
other
fair enough.
questions?
Yeah. I'm more interested. There's another one. I'm more interested in finding out about things more than I am finding out about people.
Right. And how did you answer that one?
I said, no, I'm not. No, I think because it's not actually yes and no. It's not black and white. I think it was like a little bit yes and a little bit no, somewhere in the middle. I think what they're getting at is like people who are autistic are generally more obsessed with objects than they are about people.
Right.
Like noticing when I was a kid, for example, I noticed a lot the number plates of cars, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I
Yep.
kind of noticed. I wouldn't go down a rabbit hole of like, like trying to kind of do kind of mathematics about whatever, because there isn't any. It's too random, right? Number plates. But I was kind of obsessed about number plates.
Right. So I answered yes, because
Okay.
I will be interested in someone for like little bursts of time, right? Like I'll be interested in you during this podcast, but then we stop
Thanks, mate.
recording, and then I'm not interested in you anymore. I'm interested in something
Right.
else,
Oh,
right?
Jesus. That was quick.
Quick. I know, right? I just move on. and I think, how much do I
Yeah.
know about typefaces, right? How much,
Right.
when I'm just going down the road, am I thinking about my brother or my sister-in-law? A little bit sometimes, but
But not
most of
too
the
much.
time I'm going, oh look, that's oh look, they use times for that font. That's not
right.
I wouldn't have chosen that font.
Let's use Comic Sans.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll
But now
either
you're
think,
saying that, yeah.
I tend to
Now I
think,
think I could have easily got my score up then.
I mean, so in all honesty, right, if someone said, okay, right, here's two books, right? One book is about someone that right? And it's got some stuff in there. And then there's a book of like things that you're really interested in. It could be like whatever it is, right? Whatever you're interested in. I like synths. I like all kinds of music stuff. I like books and stuff. And then if that happened to me 10 times, I might pick the book about the person twice, maybe 3 times. But I'd probably spend more time interested in things that I'm interested in. I don't know. I almost feel like interest in people
is flop.
Well, yes, but I think for me, in all honesty, interest in other people is like almost when I have to be. When something's happened, or someone's upset, or there's a question that I need to have answered, or there's some drama or something that needs to be sorted out, then okay, my attention will turn to that. But if everything was flat, my attention would go, oh, it'd be over here. I'd be looking at this thing and this, going down this rabbit hole and listening to this podcast, and I'd be
Funnily enough, today on the way back from a client, I was teaching English to a client where there was like 4 clients in a room, and they work for like some industrial kind of company that make massive pieces of steel for like creating dams and stuff like that. Like each one piece of machined steel weighs about 4 tons, right? For one
Nice.
piece, right? And in front of their warehouses, they've got these like lines and lines and lines and lines of steel ingots, right?
Wow.
I was absolutely fascinated. Actually, I photographed them. I asked permission
There
and I
you go.
photographed, spent 2 hours photographing these massive 2-ton steel ingots today. And I
Wow.
also like the relationship between
See,
objects. So yeah, there you go. All
it's
right, fair enough.
it's interesting how it's like, yeah, because there's a part of you that feels like it should say, no, I'm way more interested in people than I am things. And then
Right.
you sit there and you like really think about it, and you kind of
Yeah.
go, oh well, actually, yeah, I am interested in people, but
Mm. Hmm.
I'm interested in.
Well,
I spend most of my time interested in things than I am people.
yeah, and
Um,
also the relationship between
you know,
things.
so it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it interesting? Yeah, I suppose in the end, this test, it helps you go down
Mm-hmm.
that like path of like
Yes, there you go.
getting to
See
know
that
yourself,
what's
like
what's more
getting to know
autistic than that?
yourself. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Hello, Dead Space.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, yes. Dead
Yeah,
Space. I like a bit of Dead
yeah,
Space.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I suppose what we were talking about is, you know, to put into one side autistic or not autistic or whatever, just getting to know ourselves. How do we function? How does our brain work? What do we notice? Don't we notice? What do we get passionate about? What we don't get passionate
Right,
about? Mm.
right. And
Which is
I
always an
suspect that,
ongoing thing, isn't it?
yeah, and I suspect that a proper autism test would probably be, because I haven't had one, so I don't know, would probably be
Yeah,
going into how you answered those questions more, right? You would have
totally.
the
Yeah.
discussion that we're having now,
Hmm.
and then that
Hmm.
would like sway you one way or the other. You might kind of go, oh yeah,
Yeah.
actually I would now
Hmm.
answer that differently after I've
Totally.
chatted
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. So, have you got any other questions that you popped up for you?
No, no,
No.
no. It was
I've got a couple more.
okay. Okay. So we're 33 minutes in.
Okay. All
So,
right. Just a couple.
all
In a
right.
social group,
Yeah.
I can easily keep track of several different people's conversations. Where do you score on that one, Martin?
I said no, I couldn't. I
Yeah,
could.
me too.
Right. That was obvious for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm the polar opposite of that. Actually, it would do my nut in, do my head in to keep track of more than one conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Another easy one. I find making up stories easy.
Yeah.
Where are you on that one?
Oh, do I find them easy? You know
Yeah,
what?
to make up stories.
That was an interesting one. I don't, or I haven't found it easy for the longest time, but since I became interested in stories and storytelling and how you tell
Yeah.
stories and how they're constructed and
Mhm.
how they work, then I find it easier to tell stories now, to
Mhm.
kind of like make them up, as it were, than I
Mhm.
used to. So I kind of I'm more about that. I wasn't so good at making up stories
Okay.
for most of my life. I mean, if you put a gun to my head, then all of a sudden Cyril
Yeah.
the squirrel has
Volumes.
lost his nuts, and is
Yeah.
on a quest
Yeah.
through the forest to find his nuts, and
Mhm.
he meets all kinds of
Yeah.
interesting forest creatures
People
along the
along the
way.
way.
Yeah.
Hurrah! I'm personally rooting for that squirrel. I've always found it really easy to make up stories. I used to do it with my
Nice.
son at story time at night. When I
I
put him
like
to
that.
bed, I make up stories all the time.
Oh.
They're still famous. He still remembers the
Oh
stories.
wow. I like that. That's so
Evolved.
cute.
Yeah, I used to love that. I really miss that, but that's a whole other episode. Probably a whole
Right.
other a whole different podcast. Actually, I used to love that. Yeah, there's one evolved to Harley Davidson's, a yellow Harley Davidson that he still talks about today.
All right. Well, perhaps you should write
Yeah.
it down and then try and sell it to
Yes.
Harley.
Yes, I probably should. Okay. All right. Well,
All right.
interesting then.
Cool.
Okay, but let's just like to probably worth summing up or repeating what we said at the beginning. We've never been a podcast about telling people how to think
We're not
or anything.
experts.
We're not that kind. We're not experts. This is just how our experience so far. We've been having conversations recently, me and Martin, about. Oh well, I think I'm autistic. What do you think? Yeah, I think I'm just autistic too. That's it. You know, pretty
Right.
much until up till now.
I'm now. I sit in the I could be autistic camp. Unless I
Yeah.
really started to kind of deep dive, and then I mean,
Hmm.
so these tests for me are like little signposts. They're like, yeah, you could be, and maybe you want to investigate that further.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it.
And you could if you've got the cash. 'Cause I think it's quite expensive, right?
Or
Certainly in the States, it's
um,
expensive.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
I mean, there is value. I mean, I in exactly the same value in you. I believe you can self-diagnose yourself as ADHD. You can self-diagnose yourself as autistic. Um,
mm,
but if you need if you need accommodations and
hmm
assistance, then you're only going to get that if you go for an official diagnosis, which in the States
hmm
it costs money, lots of
money.
money.
Yeah. But we're lucky. We've got internet. Well, there's hazards obviously on the internet in terms of
Mm.
learning, developing your learning about autism. There are hazards in there because there's a lot of nonsense talked about it now, probably more than ever, and
Oh
could
yeah.
get worse, guys, in
Oh
the near
yeah.
future in September. But I think it's. I personally, my personal mentality is with like my ADHD. My preference is to lean into my ADHD, lean into whatever autistic elements there are about me, and see what pops out. See what I learn from it.
Yeah.
Almost end of story, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, there is a part of me that does like rules and systems,
Mm-hmm.
and when my ADHD side can let go of its need for novelty and change, and and trying to
Mm-hmm.
not conform, when my
Mm-hmm.
autistic side, or at least that's how it feels to me, has some sort of control, then it can put systems in, and those actually work really well. Like
Yeah.
I can brush my teeth. I can do all kinds of things if I have a system
Mm-hmm.
and rules that I follow. Yay!
Yeah.
It's just about trying to keep the
Yes.
ADHD side amused enough
Yeah.
for my autism
Yes.
side to kind of function and make things happen.
Yeah. Well, on that side of things, a lot of people are saying, it really helps if you become vegan and you give up alcohol. I've done neither of those things. I like a glass of wine, and I like I'm. It's going to be difficult for me to become vegan personally
Yeah,
for many different reasons.
I'm
But you know,
I say I am almost a vegan. I have meat
are you
about once a week, roughly.
okay? Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm not. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not vegan, but I'm not. But yeah, my meat consumption is literally once a week, if that.
Okay.
Sometimes it's like once a fortnight, and I'm kind of quite good with that. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm alright with that.
Oh, it's just not. It's not impossible. I have some problems with textures and things, which is also a trait. Textures of certain. I hate with a passion, or 99% of cooked vegetables, but raw veg I love. For instance, for example,
right. See, how does your partner cook veg? Being
well, thank you.
an executive chef that she is.
She's great. Well, that's another thing. If I have to prepare for myself a salad, okay, I won't do it. If she prepares it for me, I will love it and consume it joyfully. Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird.
I love raw veg. Raw carrot. Oh God, it's like heaven to me.
Right.
Today I
And
bought
think,
4 bunches of radishes, for example. I love raw radish. Lovely.
Right. I mean, you can. I mean, I've got loads of radishes growing outside. They grow really quickly.
Lovely.
They're good.
Do they?
Yeah. They're very simple things to grow. They're just like weeds almost. I mean, once you start them, they're
but also
great.
I bought some asparagus today. Have you got asparagus?
All right. Lovely.
Love asparagus. Tomorrow I'm cooking asparagus risotto.
Very nice.
For my girl, for my lady.
Right. But you know what? I think because we're British. Our vegetables were cooked to death till they were cooked. So if you were supposed to cook like carrots for like 10 minutes, it would be like 45 minutes, and you'd have these like mushy, orangey lumps, right? I mean, like
it induces to me. It makes me want to heave, to vomit.
Right.
The smell of overcooked vegetables is just to me disgusting.
Yeah,
and it put me off vegetables for life.
Yeah, so I think our culture did not do us
raw veg
any favors.
Lovely.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Let's crack on because we've got a quiz to do and we've got a listener question to crack through. So while you're pulling that up, we're gonna.
I've already pulled it up, Martin.
Great. Well, let's just crack into it. I think.
I'm an extremely well prepared person.
Oh, that's what everyone's always said about you, Paul.
Paul, prepared.
I'm prepared with a pen and pencil to write the answers down.
They're all liars. They're all liars.
They're all liars.
They're all liars.
That sounds like you're getting your quiz prepared, Paul. This kind of gap.
No, it's prepared. I'm looking at it now.
All right.
Do we need to go somewhere? Are there some
Yeah, let's just go to the
music.
Right, let's just cram into the tractor, and let's go to the coffee place. I'm gonna have a green tea.
Okay, I'm gonna have a glass of Franciacorta.
All right.
Yeah, which is like a prosecco, because it's in the evening. We're not synced as ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost 9 o'clock here in the evening. So I've got a quiz for you, Martin.
Oh, pub quiz.
Pub quiz, and it's on a theme of testing. It's
right, okay.
Vaguely relevant to what we've just been talking about.
Okay, so everyone everyone can play along.
Yeah.
Let us know what your scores were in the comments.
Yes. Yes, please. Yes. So it's very specific. It's about weird animal testing examples in
Oh,
space
good
travel.
Lord. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I've left out the more gruesome ones. I just want
Thank
to
you,
point
Paul.
that out. Thank you. I know
Thank
the
you.
temptation was high, but so I'm going to give you there's 4 of these, okay?
All right.
And within each of these, okay, I'm going to give you 4 examples of animals that have been involved in some way in space travel, but one of them is false. I made it up, Martin.
Oh, I see.
In my
Which one is false?
in my mind, in
Okay.
a little mind. Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to give you 4, one of which is false.
Okay.
1. Laika the space dog was actually a stray dog from the streets of Moscow in
True.
1957. It's true.
Yeah.
She had no return plan, unfortunately. Poor dog.
Yeah.
They knew, and she actually died of overheating a few hours into the flight. Okay. 2.
I thought you said that this wasn't bad. I've already got dog death
there's much
on
worse.
number 1.
No, there's much worse, Martin. You have no idea.
Oh no.
This is one of the easier. This is much. No, there's much. You've no idea what I left out.
Do you know, right?
You've no idea.
If a dog
I've
dies,
left out worse.
if a dog dies in anything, I have to pre-check, right? So if there's a film that my wife wants to see, I have to pre-check whether anything bad happens to the dog.
No.
And if it does, then we ain't watching it. So that's the level, right? No dogs die.
The level. Okay. How is she on fruit flies? Because that's the next animal.
Kill them all. Kill them all.
Fruit flies, the second one, Martin.
Yes.
It was used in the 1947 by the American Space Agency. I think it's called NASA. 1947. It was used on a V2 rocket launch to test fruit flies for radiation exposure, Martin.
Yep. That's going to be true because, like, science has always...
It survived, came back mutant-free, which is a good thing.
Because fruit flies are used a lot in science because they reproduce quite quickly and they're understood really well.
Okay.
So fruit flies. So that does not surprise me in the slightest. Go on.
What about squirrel monkeys with diapers?
Okay, well that seems a little weird.
Late 1940s and 1960s, US and USSR. Okay. They had tiny little custom space suits and diapers. Monkeys included Albert, Miss Baker, who survived, and Ham.
Okay.
The names, 3 of their names: Albert, Miss Baker, and Ham. Okay. Number 4. Okay. This is the last of them. Flatworms, 1965, American testing. They wanted to tell which way they squirmed, anti-clockwise or clockwise.
Okay.
So which one of those? Laika the space dog, fruit flies, squirrel monkeys, or flatworms?
I'm going with flatworms because the squirrel monkeys... Well, at least I think monkeys did go in space at one point.
With diapers?
Probably, yes.
They were tested for their G-force tolerance, apparently.
Right, because you don't want monkey poo spraying around the place, just free floating around with all the... So,
yeah.
You're
correct. You're right, Martin. Flatworms was the odd one out.
Yeah.
It's completely false. Completely false. Okay.
One in the bag.
Well done, Martin. Okay, next one. Bullfrogs in microgravity tested between the 1970s and the 1990s by NASA and others.
Okay.
Bullfrogs.
All right.
Studied particularly for their inner ear balance, reproduction, and swimming in zero gravity. Swimming. bullfrogs. Well, that makes sense.
Right.
Pygmy hippos, Martin. 1950s and 1960s USSR mission. General bowel testing their bowel movements. Apparently, pygmy hippos. It was one of which was called Jerry. Okay. Number 3, moon jellyfish were actually transported into space, and actually some were born in space, studying the development of gravity sensing organs.
All right. Yeah. I buy that.
Okay. Outcome: jellyfish born in space had trouble swimming properly when they actually returned to Earth.
Interesting.
Okay. Dogs in spacesuits, another dog one.
Okay.
The Soviets between in 1950s and 60s, actually just general dozens of suborbital and orbital flights.
Yep, they did.
Notable amongst which were one dog called Belka, another one called Strelka.
All right, no,
Belka Strelka. It sounds like a pub. Sounds like a great name for a pub. Belka and Strelka.
Right. Well, I'm going for option 2, pygmy hippos, because it just seems like
that's
such a
correct.
too big. What? Why go with something?
It's a pygmy. That's why I called it. That's why I specified pygmy hippo.
Yeah, but even so, it's a big thing.
It's very specific, isn't it?
It's
all right. That's
large.
2 out of 2. Okay.
Winning this.
They're quite big. There are dogs bigger than pygmy hippos. Okay. Yeah. This is what this is going to test you.
All right, here we go.
So you got 2 out of 2 so far. Well done.
Yeah.
Sloths, however you want to pronounce it. Sloths in zero gravity. Okay. General testing to see if they move just as slowly, actually, with zero gravity. Okay.
Right.
One of the weird outcomes is they vomited almost continually and made the research almost pointless. Okay. 2 newts in orbit, Soviets between 1985 and 1990s, studying limb generation in space. They're actually newts sent to space, having had some of their limbs cut off to see if they would grow back.
That makes sense.
In space.
That makes sense.
Geckos.
All right.
They were tested in microgravity and sex studies. Again, not post-Soviet. This is actually Russia, Martin.
All right.
And to see how their embryonic, the development of embryos in space. Number 4, octopuses or octopi. Okay. Zero gravity again, trying to understand consciousness from an alien-like animal in space.
That makes sense to me. I would buy that.
Which one's before? Sloths, newts, geckos, or octopuses?
I have to basically go with sloths because it seems like such a pointless thing, such a big thing, and so pointless to see if they're slow in space as well. Like, what scientific?
Yeah, I know.
Science forward.
Right. It's almost as if someone autistic created this quiz, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's just like I tend to think of it as like, what value could you get out of that experiment, right? And I can see value in most of them, and then there's ones like the sloth. It's like, it's a very big animal to like start shifting around.
Have you never been curious to know how slow you'll be in space?
No, because there's already many people who have gone to space, or at least gone to 0G, that you don't need to know the effects on humans, because you can just do humans.
Oh, okay.
You don't need to put a sloth in that. In that. Anyway.
Right. Okay.
Is that
3
right?
3.
Oh, come on. I'm looking for a clean
Come
sweep
on.
now.
This one is a tricky one.
Okay.
This one's trickier. All right.
Okay, here we go. Okay, come on then.
I was a little bit less autistic when I did this last one.
Okay then.
Okay.
Let
One,
me.
Japanese quails in space. Come on.
Little birds.
Post-Soviet. This is Russia in 1990s and the 2000s, Martin.
Wow, that's
Quails
recent.
were one of the only animals to lay eggs in space. Actually laid eggs in space, unlike any other poultry.
Right.
Okay. 2, tortoises around the moon. 1968 Soviet mission. Tortoises orbited the moon long before humans did.
Okay.
3,
interesting.
Cockroach conception in space. Post-Soviet. Okay. Very specific. 2007. Okay.
Yeah.
Test to see if insects can mate and reproduce in space. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
A bit of detail. One coach, they gave one of the cockroaches a name. It was called Nadezhka, which is actually Russian for space MILF.
What?
Yes. Number 4. Moving on.
Come on. Space milk.
Come on. Yes. Cockroach called space milk.
Okay.
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 Right?
Yes.
Number 4, last one, Martin. Snakes around the moon. Orbited around the moon. Orbited the moon before humans did.
All right. Just like tortoises.
Okay. So, Japanese quails, tortoises, cockroaches called space MILF, and snakes to see if you can get the full.
Here we go. Right. So I don't think it's quails, because egg production and food would be very interesting for space travel, right? If you were going to the moon, could you take things to eat?
Yeah.
So that's fine. And that also goes down, I think that's the same reason for the cockroach conception. It's like, because insects are quite nutritious, right? So if you could get insects to reproduce in space, you could that could be food. So see the tortoise around
even
the moon,
if they had strange names.
Yeah, even with this,
does the name not throw you a bit?
No, I mean it's just I just have to ignore that part.
Space MILF. I did pronounce it wrongly. Nadezhka. Nadezhda. Space MILF.
All right.
Nadezhda.
Okay.
Nadezhda. Space MILF.
So it's either tortoise around the moon.
You get to learn Russian on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm now fluent. I can now go into Russia. Yes. I could ask for a space MILF.
Yes.
Excuse me, comrade. Can I have a space MILF?
Excuse me, comrade West.
Yeah. I'm going to go
I think
with.
You need to go back to the gulag.
I think. Yeah. I think I'm going to go with the wrong one, being tortoises going around the moon.
Right.
Maybe snakes are a little bit more interesting than tortoises.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah. I'm ahead anyway.
Snakes. It was snakes.
Oh, snakes on a plane. 3 out of 4. How did you do at home, dear listener?
How did you do at home? By the way, the space MILF, the Russian space, she actually got pregnant during the orbit while she was orbiting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is interesting. All right. All right. Well, what we will do.
Well done, Martin. Well done.
Thank you very much. I'm going to scroll down, and we are going to say that let's do the post office
Yes.
thing,
Mhm.
where you will say your feedback.
I would say your feedback is vital to us. We read all the comments. We might read yours out on a future podcast. Yes, we will. Ha, 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 ha.
Indeed. I read. I'll
Indeed.
just read out
Like
two.
this one.
Right, which was
Like these ones.
from Debbie, who said that last week's episode, which was the episode on do things, how the world seems to change when you suddenly realize you've got ADHD. She said,
Mhm.
good episode, shared with the neighbors again. So she
That's
turns
good.
it, so she turns it up and makes sure everyone else can enjoy the podcast.
Fantastic. Turn it up.
Turn it up and
Yeah,
again, from our official the ADHD town crier,
yes.
Alexandra said, love, I always feel seen.
Lovely.
And this is, and Alexandra is the one who gave us a listener question. So if you have a
Okay.
question for Paul or myself, get in the comments. It doesn't matter what it
Both.
is.
Yes.
It doesn't even have to be ADHD related. We will have a
No.
crack at anything.
Exactly. If you want a little piece of our wisdom.
Right. So this is yeah. So her question was, and perhaps you might have some ideas on this. How do I remember to water during the day? And this is a problem that I have.
How do you remember to what?
To drink water during the day.
Oh, okay. Water. Okay.
Because summer's coming, right? And I forget to drink water, and then I wonder why I've got a pounding headache and my skin is like a gecko or a tortoise. And
or cockroach called.
Right. Because
and also Alexandra, she lives in Greece. Even more reason to drink water.
Absolutely. Yeah, because our ADHD.
I don't have any advice. I'm really bad at it. I always forget to buy water. It would be the last thing I would buy.
Yeah, I know.
I
because
never drink water. I only drink water because my girlfriend remembers to buy it.
Oh, right. There you go. So you have to partner up with someone who's really into it.
Yes.
Yeah, because our ADHD brains, I think they put it under a boring, not essential category. So it's just like me.
What if you what if you have water but you squeeze like lime juice into it, so it gives you slightly more incentive to drink it? Does that work?
Yes, that would be one way. So it's it is a hack because our ADHD brains like novelty, right? So that could either be putting things into the water itself, like you can get like little packets of flavorings. You can just like shove it in there, just so it makes it more interesting. Lime, lemon. Even the actual thing that you drink it out of, if that's fun, and and that makes it easy because you're kind of carrying it around.
What about a big straw, like a massive straw? Striking one.
If it works, I mean, there's also linking hydration to something else. Like, I don't know about you, Paul, but I find it's easier to do things if I link it to. So if I have a habit, like I don't have. So if I drink tea in the morning or coffee or cereal or something, and if the habit is, if you try and build the habit onto that, which is like, and a glass of water, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
or every time I go to the bathroom, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I then kind of go, oh, I'm just going to get a glass of water or something.
Yeah.
It's almost like trying to find the habit to bolt onto something
Well,
else.
my water has to be on the kitchen table for me to drink it.
Right.
If the water is in the fridge, I won't drink it. I'll forget. If it's on the kitchen table, like which is in the middle of the room,
Visible.
I much more like to pick it up, visible. Like I have to walk around it daily.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like, I mean, for things like that, I sometimes put a daily reminding alarm on my phone that will just be like, drink water, and it'll ping up
Yes.
at some point during the day, which is helpful. But yeah, I think just if you can have like
add
one
novelty
of those,
to it.
yeah, and have a big flask thing, and you just fill it up first thing in the morning and then carry it around with you. That's helpful. I mean, like I used to call it my emotional support water bottle. Like I liked having it there always with me, and I carry it around. So that was helpful.
But if you've got also, as you said, if you can find like a really cool water flask, of which there are many now, you find something that you find particularly funny, or you could do what I did. I've got on the back. I found this sticker in Germany when I took my son, because he lives in Germany now. Took my son to a town called Magdeburg, and found this sticker. It was like ADHD Antifa sticker, which is really, really cool. Actually, I'll hold it up to the camera.
There it is.
Antifa ADHD. This is really cool. Find a sticker that you like, makes you like chuckle, makes you laugh when you see it. You can even make your own sticker. Stick that on the flask. Right. And it's another reason to pick up your flask, to make you like, as like emotional pick me up.
Or put a post-it note up on the wall near the tap or your glasses, or there we go. All right. Well, I think there's a whole bunch of interesting. If anyone else has got some hacks, get in the comments. Share.
Yes.
Share the knowledge.
Share. Talking of comments, it's time to go to the outro.
It is. So it just leaves it for me to say that ADHDville is delivered fresh every Tuesday to all purveyors of fine podcasts. Please subscribe to the pod and rate us most. Fantastic. And feel free to correspond in the comments. But wait, there's more. If you want to see our beautiful, beautiful faces, you can head over to the YouTubes or the TikToks. And you can also pick up a quill and email ADHDville@gmail.com. But in the meantime, be fucking kind to yourself.
And I beseech you, fellow ADHDers, know thyself, sons of the hounds, come hither and get the flesh.
There, says the mayor. That's that.
Wow.